What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we got a BD diesel iron horn kit going in a 2014 6.7 Cummins. Getting rid of the VGT turbo. I know, like me personally, I like the VGT turbo. I put one on my 5.9. I have a video of that one if you're interested as well. But some guys, they don't like the VGT turbo, and so what do? They get one of these BD diesel iron horn kits. So this is just the small turbo. It's a 363 over 76, I think, something like that. I think it's the smallest one they offer with their iron horn kit. This truck is just used for towing, so they didn't want to do anything crazy. But yeah, we're gonna go ahead, throw it in the truck. We'll do a little video on it. So if you find the video useful or you enjoy it, please like it and subscribe. And if you got questions, ask in the comments or look me up on Instagram at Dark Iron Diesel, shoot me a message. But yeah, let's get at her. So this is the truck, like I said, 2014 6.7 Cummins. This one's around 3500. This one is deleted. The DPF is deleted on it, but the EGR cooler and everything is still on, just unplugged. So we got to take it off anyways to get down to the turbo. And obviously, since it's already deleted, we're not going to put it back on. So I'm going to start by probably get the coolant draining and start removing all this these EGR components. I'm not going to go into too much detail removing this EGR cooler. I do have another video. I'll put a link down in the description if you want to see that video, the process of doing that. But again, remember, depending where you live, you might not be legally allowed to do emission deletes unless it's off-road use only. So keep that in mind. Make sure you know your laws before you think you're just going to go delete your truck, because you can get in some trouble for doing it. So off-road use only, know your laws. But yeah, let's start ripping this off. Okay, we got the EGR cooler all out of there. I haven't drained the coolant yet. I'm just gonna do it now. This is what I use. It is a 10mm Allen socket, and the drain is stupid. It is down kind of on the side there, and when you loosen it, only loosen it a quarter turn, and it should start draining. I unbolt this power steering reservoir to get more room in there, but I'm just gonna get the coolant draining now. So the instructions say to like take out the battery box and everything and pull the turbo out and then pull the exhaust manifold out. But I think I'm gonna try to just pull the exhaust manifold with the turbo out altogether. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna disconnect the batteries just so I don't arc any tools out on them. And I'm gonna take this exhaust back pressure sensor out of my exhaust manifold. And then I'll start disconnecting stuff on the turbo. You got your charge tube there. You got your coolant line, oil line up there. You got a coolant line, oil line on the bottom. You got to take the exhaust off the back of the turbo there. Yeah, I'm going to start getting all that stuff off. I'm also going to undo this coolant line here, pop it off and fold it out of the way, because I'm really hoping I can just pull this exhaust manifold and turbo all together. You can completely get rid of this coolant line because the new turbo is not going to use it. Okay, slight change of plans as to how I'm doing this. But I decided to try to take my 4 turbo bolts, my turbo to manifold flange bolts out, and they're actually coming pretty good. I got all 3 of the back ones, or like 1, 2, 3. I just have this one front one left, the easy one. So I'm gonna take that one out, then I'm gonna unbolt this exhaust manifold, and I'll just pull the exhaust manifold out, and then that'll leave a ton of open room to pull that turbo out after. I have this cool wrench snipe thing here. You could also just double wrench it, but I like to use this more. So when I'm in tight places like that, I try to get this in there as best I can. I put on some gloves so I don't bust my knuckles open, because I've done that enough. And I just give her hell, and you can usually get some shitty bolts like that out. Okay, the 4 bolts that hold the turbo to the manifold are out, or the nuts, I guess. So now we can take this exhaust manifold out of the truck. First though, back here, you'll see, if I can show you, there's this guy right here. It's kind of like a lock that goes from the top to the bottom bolts on the back there. So you got to get a chisel or a pry bar and try to pop it off the top stud, and then try to pop it off the bottom stud, because you can't get a socket on there right now with that metal kind of retaining lock on there. If you try to put a socket on now, you might get it on, but as soon as you try to back it off, you're just going to strip the end of your bolt off. This is what they look like. This one just has one. Some of the older trucks have two of them. They can be a pain in the ass sometimes, but yeah, get this off, discard it. Now take your heat shield off, your exhaust manifold, and then just unbolt your exhaust manifold, all your bolts there, and should be able to just pull it right out of the truck. There's the manifold. Look at all that room in there now. Try to clean out all these exhaust manifold gaskets as best you can. They're probably all over the engine now. Okay, well now I'm gonna take off this charge cooler, whatever pipe, my electrical. There's some electrical there. There's this sensor there that goes in the back of the turbo outlet there. I think we might have to take the whole module off down there. I'll show you when I get it out. And then disconnect the V-band clamp on the exhaust back there. Then your coolant line and your oil line underneath. You gotta get those off too, and we should be able to pull this thing out. All right, after some fighting and swearing, I got her all apart, all loose. This module here, I actually unbolted it and it was a pain in the ass. I ended up trying to just take this sensor out, but it was getting tight and it wasn't coming out either. So I figured this was the lesser of the two evils and undid it. So everything should be disconnected. I got the oil drain off the bottom and the coolant line. So yeah, I'm gonna get a friend here to help me, just because it can be a little tricky trying to maneuver this out of here. Putting the new one in will be easier because it's smaller, because it doesn't have all the VGT crap on it. So, but yeah, we're gonna pull her out.
Yeah. Thanks.
All right, turbo's out of there, so now we got to figure out what we're gonna do with the old turbo coolant lines. I just pulled this one off. It bolts to the head, or sorry, to the engine block down in there. So this is the one that goes on the bottom of the turbo, so we don't need that anymore. So here are the two plugs that the kit comes with. I'm not sure how that's supposed to go here, and that's a bigger fitting there, so I don't know, I might have to get my own plug for that. But yeah, this one, I can't really show you, but where the coolant line came out of the engine block, you're gonna put this plug in there to cap that one off, and then yeah, I'll have to figure out what I'm gonna do with this one after. Never mind, I was wrong, BD was right. I ended up pulling this fitting out. It just looked way bigger, but once I got it out, I realized like, oh no, it's the same. So I'm just gonna put this plug in right there, and that'll be it for the coolant. Okay, now before we put the manifold in, I'm gonna just use an SOS pad or something, just kind of clean up those flanges a bit. Mine are pretty good, so this is fine. If yours are, you know, pretty rusty or something, then you might want to actually use some kind of buffer wheel. But yeah, just clean up your flanges nice. Okay, we're gonna get this exhaust manifold ready. So here are the studs it comes with. These two longer ones are gonna go into the cylinder head on the lower cylinder 4 and 5 holes. We'll do that in a second. But first, we can put these guys in. So you're gonna have 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5, 6, 7, 8 on the bottom here. So we're just gonna thread those in. There's also these plugs that we have to put in there, but I think I'm just gonna wait to put those in until the manifold is in the truck, because then it's just gonna be a little more sturdy to tighten them up. And when you're putting these in, you can just snug them up by hand. As long as they're bottomed out like that, they should be fine. Now that these guys are all in, we'll go take these longer ones and put them in the cylinder head. So like I said, they go in cylinder 4 and cylinder 5 on the lower. So I'm just gonna snug them up by hand and we're good to go. One thing that I like to do on any bolts that get hot is put anti-seize on them. So I'm gonna put some on here, and I'm also gonna put some on the 4 turbo flange bolts, and all my exhaust manifold bolts are gonna get anti-seize. With all that stuff done, we are ready to install this manifold. Get your gaskets ready, and we'll go throw her in. So the way I put it in was I put 2 of the top bolts through and put the gaskets on them, and then I slid it over top of those 2 studs there, and then I just started these ones by hand. So it's still loose here, but now I have enough room to put my gaskets in, and I can start my other bolts, and we'll tighten them up at the end. This one's a little bit of a pain in the ass because with this new BD high flow manifold, the way it's designed, you can't just go over here and get that cylinder 5, the bottom bolt. You can't just use a ratchet from the outside. You have to actually kind of go underneath and use a wrench to tighten it. So it can be kind of a pain, but yeah, I'm gonna get all my gaskets in and put my bolts on. And then when we tighten it, we're gonna tighten it to 39 foot-pounds, and you're gonna start from the middle and work your way out all the way back and forth. Okay, the exhaust manifold is in and all torqued up. I'm gonna take my new gaskets that come in the kit. I'm gonna put them on my EGR ports and put my blocker plates on quick. Okay, plates are on. I also went down here and I just kind of zip tied up the 2 plugs that went to the old turbo. Just got them out of the way. I think we're still gonna have to use this plug down here to plug in that sensor that's just out the outlet of the turbo. But yeah, now we're going to, before we get the turbo in here, we're gonna drill out these holes. We gotta drill them out a little bit bigger. I'll go check the spec. But yeah, because some bigger nuts are going, or bigger bolts are going in there, and that's the oil drain. So we're gonna straighten it out a little bit more because it's gonna have to go higher to the new turbo, and we'll have to drill the holes out a bit. 25/64 is the drill bit you're gonna need. So again, I'm just gonna go down there to those 2 holes that bolt the oil drain, and I'm gonna drill them out to 25/64. So once this cools down, I'm just gonna kind of pull it and try to bend it straight so it's up a bit higher. So that way it should be a little bit easier when we put the new turbo in. But we're gonna go to the turbo right now and get it ready to drop in the truck. So first thing on the old turbo, I'm gonna use my 11mm impact, and there's a V-band clamp down here. And I'm gonna loosen this clamp and pop this, this piece off the back of the turbo. I might have to grab a punch or a pry bar like this and strike it just to break this V-band clamp free. So this is really easy to line up. It's got a little dowel pin right there, and down there is the hole. So just put the pin in the hole, make sure it's seated nice, and put this clamp on first and tighten her up. Okay, I put this little guard back on. You probably didn't even take yours off anyways. Now I'm gonna put, this is a new oil feed fitting that comes with the kit. So I'm just gonna thread it in there. 3/4 inch socket. Should spin it in for you. So I'm going to get that tight, and then I think this is ready to go in the truck. Okay. Okay, well, it's sitting in there. I got to manipulate it a bit to get this on the flange. But yeah, we'll see how that goes. Okay, the turbo is in, it is bolted up. I actually took this, where is it? This turbo oil feed fitting out just so I could get the nuts, because they all face down on the new turbo setup. So I took it out just to tighten up the turbo. I'll put it back in a bit here, but I'm gonna go underneath and do the oil drain because in my experience, that's usually the worst part, especially lining up to a new turbo. So I'm gonna go underneath and get that oil drain on, and then we're gonna come up here and button up the top. Make sure you use the new gasket and bolts that come in the kit. Okay, the oil drain is hooked up, so now I'm gonna put this feed fitting back in and hook up my oil feed line. But just before I do that, I'm gonna get a tiny little funnel, and I'm going to put some fresh engine oil in the oil inlet until it overflows, and then you just let it drain into the turbo. Do that before you hook everything up, because you want to pre-lube that turbo. Just like that. What are you doing? Gonna make another mess? Yep. Rip it apart. Okay, I went ahead and plugged back in this sensor there, the one that goes to the back of your turbo, and I also put this charge air cooler pipe on as well. Now I'm going to get these 2 plugs and put them right there in those ports on the exhaust manifold. Okay, I got this EGR delete oil dipstick bracket on. I'm gonna put the EGR delete plug in here, run the new coolant line, and hook up these 2 coolant lines that we took off. So if you're putting your EGR cooler back on, that's what you're gonna do now. But yeah, we're almost done here. Okay, I just got the exhaust hooked up to the turbo. Yeah, that's pretty much it. We're gonna put this air intake pipe back in, then we can hook up our batteries, kind of go over everything, make sure everything's tight and we did it all right, and put some coolant in it, and then we're gonna have to tune this truck to run with the fixed geometry turbo. And I guess before we forget, we should quickly put this exhaust back pressure sensor back in the manifold right there. Okay, well, she should all be good to go. Just gonna shut the coolant drain, fill it up with coolant, but I'm gonna get it tuning first just because the tune process takes about 20 minutes on these trucks. So I'll get it tuning. Once it's tuning, I'll put the coolant in. All right, she's programming. I use a laptop to flash EFI Live, but I still use, it flashes through the AutoCal. So if you're doing this yourself, you probably just have one of these AutoCals that you load the tunes on and flash her. But yeah, loading an EFI Live tune now with to run without that VGT turbo. I always put a battery charger on whenever I'm tuning a truck. You never want the batteries to go dead while you're in the middle of a tune. Customer also just texted me and said go ahead and remove this baffle or turbo silencer out of his intake. So should whistle a little bit more now. Okay, truck is tuned, it's got coolant in it. Before I fire up a truck, I always stick my hand in the fan and I just spin the fan to make sure there's nothing stuck in it. But yeah, I did all my checks, so I think we're ready to fire this girl up. You always want to wait about a minute or two just idling so that turbo gets nice and oiled before you rev it up when you put a new turbo in. Well, I think that's pretty much it. I'm gonna go for a test drive now, make sure there's no leaks and that everything's working properly and the tune's all good. But as for the video, I think that's it. So if you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe. If you got questions, ask in the comments or look me up on Instagram at Dark Iron Diesel and shoot me a message. But anyways, guys, thank you for watching. We'll see you on the next video.